James, how do you guys kind of strike a balance between, obviously Saturday night doesn't go how you want it, but it was such a big recruiting weekend for you guys. How do you kind of flip that switch when, just a few hours after the game, you guys are doing other things?
Yeah, it's obviously not easy. That's where I think you just gotta push through it. You got to see the big picture. You got to say, look, we got to do everything in the present to give our guys the best chance to be successful, but we always got to be building for the future. I think you guys know the next day I landed, a plane in Columbus, Ohio, probably the last place I wanted to be, as you can imagine. But again, you got to see the big picture and you got to keep pushing forward. That's just the nature of the beast.
James, Ricky was pretty tough on himself talking to the AP. What are your general thoughts on, what he had to say and his role in the end of the game scenario there?
Yeah, I would say, I would say in a lot of ways it makes me very proud as the head football coach that we've created a culture that everybody wants to take ownership. Trace wants to take ownership. Miles wants to take ownership. Jawan wants to take ownership. John Reed wants to take ownership. Ricky wants to take ownership. The whole staff wants to take ownership. Ultimately, as we've already covered, it's my responsibility. But I think that's a real positive sign when you got a bunch of people that want to take ownership of the areas that we can get better. So, I think as a head coach, from a cultural perspective, I think that's a real positive. I think a lot of programs, when things go wrong, everybody wants to point the finger at other people, and to have so many people say it's on me, I think is a real positive about the culture and the strength of our program.
James, C.J. Thorpe's move to defensive tackle, is that permanent? And how long has that move, maybe been in the works? What did you see there? Yeah,
it's not permanent. Really, nothing is permanent. But we talked about it this summer. We talked about making a move this summer, and decided not because we really feel like he's got a very, very bright future long term on the offensive side of the ball. But we also have gone back and forth for probably over a year now that he's also a guy that could help us on the defensive side. So, we made that move. It was pretty impressive on his part. We moved him on Sunday, and he was able to play in the game and played pretty well, and his role will continue to grow. I think you guys all know we've been battling since the beginning of the camp of trying to create a little bit more depth at the defensive tackle position. I think that's one of the things that's happened on Saturday, and I think has happened the last couple of years, is we have games like that where we play our starters a lot more reps and we run out of gas in the fourth quarter. So we got to do a better job of creating depth so we feel like we can play more guys in those type of games to sustain it. That's the next step for us. That was part of the reason for the move.
So you said nothing's permanent. Does that mean it's week to week, or?
No, it can't be week to week. I mean, obviously he needs to be working on offense to get better on offense. He needs to be working on defense to get better on defense. I'm just saying, for the season right now, the way things stand, if we have some injuries, we could make some moves. But right now for this season, he'll continue on the defensive side of the ball. He has no chance if not. You can't just move back and forth. There's too many things, too many skills, techniques, fundamentals, scheme that he needs to figure out. It was impressive enough that he was able to learn it all in a week from a scheme standpoint, but fundamentally he's way behind. Drive blocking on offense is way different than the techniques and fundamentals on the defense side of the ball.
James, you mentioned last week you wanted to implement a rotation at running back game by game. Why wasn't that the case against Ohio State? It was just Miles Sanders back there?
It's the same thing I just kind of covered about the defensive tackles. We felt like we were going to ride our best players in that game. Some of it was a rotation. It may have gone in other games going 2-to-1 series that we moved it to 3-to-1. Some of them that maybe were 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 in the past were strictly tap. Miles was a tap deal, so Miles was going to go. If he needed to blow, he'd tap his helmet, and obviously we would have played Ricky in that situation. But Miles felt like he could handle it and give us the best opportunity to win. So that was all the discussions we had during the week. Obviously, I felt like come Saturday, it made an impact. I think we played extremely well. One of the things that I'm pleased with is I think anybody that covers us closely, like you guys, I think one of the things that we talk about all the time is we want to get better from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. I think it's hard to argue that we didn't get better again last week. Were we good enough? No. And obviously, like I already did, I take responsibility for that. But I do watch that tape. I was very proud of how hard we played. We played hard. We made some mistakes, some costly mistakes, myself included, everybody involved. But we played hard and we got better. So we got to make sure that we take another step this week coming up, and take it 1 week at a time, and I think we'll like what we see.
James, do you feel like your players have put Ohio State behind them, and if so, what evidence have you seen of that?
Yeah, I think obviously Sunday was tough on all of us. Obviously the bye week helps, but we can't rely on the bye week. We got to be able to get over things and get over things quickly. Is it challenging? No doubt about it. But I think there's been some real honest conversation. Like I said, the ownership thing I think is a really good example of our guys moving on, and then I can just see it. I read their body language. I'll be honest with you, the players are probably more resilient than the coaches in a lot of ways. So it's an opportunity for us to learn from them and feed off of them.
Coach, how do you handle the bye week? I mean, do you want to look at a variety of different looks of maybe other teams coming up with the schedule? How do you?
I think what you do is you take a little bit of time to self-scout, obviously. You take a little bit of time that we came out here the last 2 days, and basically defensively what I've asked Brent to do is ways people are trying to attack us. Formation into the boundary, Groucho, which is our unbalanced, whether it's the key screens on the perimeter, whether it's traditional screens, whether it's when people feel like they know where our blitz is coming from and then they try to run the stretch play away, or whatever those types of things that people see on film. Let's cover those things. So let's make sure our guys understand how we're going to defend those things and how people are going to attack us and how people have tried to attack us over the last couple of years. That's part of it. Offensively, it's going through all the pressures. So here's all the pressures that have gotten to our quarterback. Here's the sacks that have gotten to our quarterback. This is how they've done it. And then we try to make mirrored corrections, because what I found in my years is I watch guys, they make the correction with the left tackle, the left guard. Well, you think the right guard, right tackle got the same correction, but they didn't. So now we run the blitz, the mirrored blitz from the other way, and we make the same mistake. So it gives you time when you don't always necessarily have the time to do it during a normal week, is go through mirrored corrections. So both sides of the defense are getting the correction. Both sides of the offense are getting the corrections to make sure that it's crystal clear. So it's those types of things. And then obviously it's getting a head start on Michigan State.
James, how important has Pat Freiermuth become to this offense?
Really important. I think, obviously he's not playing like a freshman right now. He's big, he's strong, he's physical. He's catching the ball extremely well. This stage is not too big for him. We noticed that, really when he arrived on campus. And then, we've had some injuries with the older guys that we have a lot of confidence in as well. Nothing significant, but stuff that just doesn't allow him to be 100%. So obviously, the depth that we have there has been helpful.
James, you originally hired David Corley to coach running backs, then you moved him to receivers. You talked about ownership. How do you think he's done so far this year? How much of the maybe inconsistencies at times with the receivers are on the guys? How much of it is on him? How do you kind of divide and digest all of that?
Yeah, David was a receivers coach, but also has been a running backs coach, so he's a guy that kind of was on both of our lists. I think obviously, we can be more consistent. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think the receivers individually would say that. I think David Corley would say that as well. So that's what we're working for. Everybody owns it. It's not any one person. Everybody owns it, including myself. So that's why you see these guys out here right now getting extra reps. I know it's not for a lack of effort. We need to be more consistently focused. We need to make sure that our techniques and fundamentals are so second nature that we don't even think about it. It just happens. I do think we've improved dramatically in the run game with our perimeter blocking. I do think we've improved there. But we need to be more consistent, no doubt.
What's your schedule like through Sunday morning now that you have this different, not time off, that'd be the wrong way of putting it.
As you guys noticed, half of our coaches left about halfway through practice because we have flight issues out of here. So there was a 5:15 flight that they all wanted to catch, so half of them left. I got a meeting with interns here in a minute, and then I'll jump on a plane, and I won't come back until Saturday night, and that's how most of our coaches are. And then Sunday, we'll have basically a very similar practice to after the Illinois game. So we'll take a little bit of work that we normally do on Tuesday, shift it to Sunday. So we'll have a little bit more of a significant Sunday practice. Not a lot, basically 10 more minutes. And it allows Tuesdays probably a little bit heavier day than it should be. And we know that based on all the sports science stuff. So whenever we have the opportunity, when we get ahead, to shift a 10-minute period to Sunday practice, we want to do that. But besides that, everything else will be the same.
Now that you guys have had a chance to go back and evaluate it, you use the Lion package, how do you think it went on Saturday, and what's kind of the plan for that move?
Yeah, we feel great about it. I've heard Chris has showed me some criticisms of it and stuff. The Lion package has been pretty darn good to us. We ran it a couple times on Saturday. It didn't go well. Obviously, we believe in Tommy Stevens. We believe what he can bring to the table for us, so we'll continue to commit to that. It's funny. It's about the plan and it's about the execution of the plan. It's not necessarily the results. We did not execute the way it should be executed. That's all it came down to.
Were PJ and Damian Barber available against Ohio State or no?
Yes.
Okay. So is it concerning then from a depth perspective that CJ was the first guy up instead of those two? Or did I miss? Did they play, either of them?
No.
I mean, is it just concerning, though, that a guy that flips over that week is the one that goes out there and not one of those two?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you got a true freshman compared to a redshirt sophomore.
But he's not a defensive tackle. I guess my question is, you've mentioned how impressive it was. Did he jump ahead that quickly because of his age? Or okay.
Yeah, he jumped ahead, obviously.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.